What's up, guys? I've got a number of things I wanted to talk about today because there's just so much stuff going on, and I haven't done a video in about a week or maybe two now. And so I want to make sure I'm constantly putting out content for you, but I'm going to see if I can break it up because I tend to go along with a lot of my commentaries. And my longest ones are for economics. So, anyway, uh, if you listen all the way through, make sure at the end, if you like my stuff, hit that like button, hit subscribe. If you've never seen me before, so that you can constantly know that I'm there and you can be part of my member group. Make sure you hit that bell notification button at the end so that you get all of my notifications, so that whenever I post something new, you'll be there and be able to partake in the content and commentaries that I give. And hopefully, if you really enjoy what I say, you will most importantly share it with everybody else that you believe can benefit from my commentaries. Now, keep in mind, my videos look like they're unprofessional because they are. I'm not a professional videographer, so I'm sorry if I don't make perfect editing or whatever stuff. So, anyway, this topic is about stuff that went on this week regarding China and the Second Amendment. Now, for this, I'm going to put on my podunk country hat because I consider myself a country boy. I grew up on a farm in California, and even though it's all city now, it's still country for me, because you can't take the country out of the country boy, right? Even though I live in a city, I don't care. I'm a country boy. I'll always be a farmer boy my whole life. So anyway, never mind. I'll take that off just so you can see my face. But you get the point. I'm country, all right? All right, we had an issue, right, with China. China does not like dissent at all, okay? We're seeing it in Hong Kong. Hong Kong does not like any of China's rules. China is an authoritarian, communist, socialist government. So all you people who love socialism, I'm constantly repeating this because I hear people that keep telling me socialism is the way, and I'm like, you dummies, just look around the world. It's in real time. It's not even history that you have to look at. It's happening now, right now, in front of your dumb face. That socialism and communism do not work, right? And they still go, oh, but that's not real socialism. If it's not real socialism, then socialism must not be real, because there's so many different socialist governments, both now and in history, and both nearby the United States and around the world, that if it's not real socialism, then you don't really have an idea what real socialism is. And therefore, socialism doesn't really exist. It's not a concrete idea. So it shouldn't even exist, and we shouldn't even be talking about socialism. Socialism should be put on the trash heap of history and burned, burned, burned. I don't want to ever hear about socialism again because it's insulting to me as an intelligent person who has studied both history and economics, that people will still push for socialism like it's the end all be all of the world and world's problems, I should say. And you even see it repeating in history. Like in Germany, they used to take these nice Nordic Swedish girls named Greta, and with the little little ponytails, like a Pippi Longstocking type girl, with blonde hair and blue eyes, who's a kid. She's a child, right? So a child can't be wrong. They're innocent. They would never do anything to hurt any adults, right? So we put this little Greta girl in front of the world to tell the world, how dare you pollute this world for me, the child. Guess what? I'm a parent. I have kids younger than you, Greta, and I want the welfare of my children to be better than yours, Greta, because you're getting paid by the leftists, so you've got a great lifestyle in this world of climate change. Seems like you've got more change than anything, and I'm not very happy about that, because I constantly post on Instagram, on Twitter, on YouTube, on Facebook, images of 100 years difference of the same location where the sea levels have not changed, right? And it's around the world. They'll have little old ancient castles from like the 1600s or whatever on the ocean, and the ocean still comes up to the same point it did hundreds of years ago. whenever they took the image 100 years ago, 100 years ago, because hundreds of years ago they didn't have the camera, but 100 years ago when they took the pictures of these 1600 castles, the water level is still at the same level 100 years ago. But they keep telling us that the world is getting hotter and the icebergs are melting and the oceans are rising and pretty soon you'll be underwater and you have 12 years left. And after 12 years, we have to do something. We have to kill all the people. We have to eat the children. You know, I took my kids to Costco today and I got them a smoothie, a fruit smoothie. Wonderful tasting stuff, right? And then I noticed they got these straws that are made out of paper because we've got these climate change people in California that believe plastic straws are a part of the problem when it comes to climate change, and they contribute to the amount of carbon dioxide that's in the atmosphere, and so we got to get rid of them. So what? My kids are drinking and the straw paper is getting wet, and they end up, like, it breaks off in their mouth, and my kid almost eats the straw. I had to stop my 2-year-old from swallowing the straw. I'm like, no, don't eat that, don't eat that. And I pulled it out. This is the ridiculousness of socialism and their stupid, tyrannical ideas about how they're going to change the world by taking away plastics from us. How ridiculous is that? Now, at the same time, some of y'all bringing this on yourself. Especially the global warming people, because they talk about all this climate change, pollution and stuff, and then I watch them pollute like crazy. You know, I used to work in a university in custodial, and actually worked in two, and they're the worst when it comes to making trash. I mean, they'll throw away anything there. They'll throw away new books because a new edition came out, right? They'll have like the 7th edition of Global Geopolitics, and it's a completely new book. It was only cracked once just for them to look in. But then because the 8th edition came out, they're like, oh, we got the 8th edition now, so these are obsolete. So they'll throw out completely new textbooks by the hundreds in the trash cans. And the way that they justify it is, okay, we'll put some in the recycling bin so that we feel good about it. But most of it ends up in the trash. It's unbelievable. And these are the same people who will take straws out of our kids' mouths and replace it with a rolled up piece of paper. The same kind of paper that they're snorting cocaine from. I mean, these people are ridiculous. So this is off topic somewhat, but it's related because this is the mentality of socialism. How stupid it is. The reality of it is they want to just have control over you. And they want to make the world crazy. You got to read the book Animal Farm and what other books there? Lord of the Flies. All these different books that are about tribalism and how when tribes get in control and they get control over government, they start to control people's behaviors, and they end up being really brutal because you've got controlling governments. Instead of what we've got here in America, which is a constitutional republic. A democracy is great if you're comparing it to a tyranny, a complete authoritarian tyranny, but a democracy is still mob rule. And the United States is a unique form of democracy. And I say unique because it's very, very rare around the world. Most people are choosing socialism. And so they're suffering. And you know what? They keep flocking to the United States because that's where it's been good, because the United States has been great because we defend minorities here. We defend everybody against the big populations that may want to lynch them. But in other countries, if a big population wants to lynch you, government stands down because they don't want to deal with the big population. And also, they get the votes from the big population. So the government may actually assist the big population in hurting you if you're the minority. That's why the United States is a great place that we should really defend and stop attacking our amendments and our law, our Constitution. Oh my God, this is getting way longer than I wanted to talk about. Way off topic, but it's still on topic. So anyway, bringing it back. South Park. South Park does not like the tyranny of the Chinese government. And so they made fun of it on a South Park episode. And because they did use their free speech and exercised it, the Chinese government banned South Park. So what did South Park's creators do? They sent a mocking letter to China saying, "Oh, we're sorry. We do love that tyrannical government you have there, and we didn't mean to offend you the way you're doing things." That's just the essence of it, right? And so they're like, "Are we good now, China? We apologize for everything. Are you gonna continue to ban us?" Obviously, they don't care because you can make a lot of money in the United States. China's actually hurting economically. So they don't care if they're banned there. And if they're banned there, they know as comedians, because the Chinese government controls speech, that comedy goes out the window. We're starting to see that in America, where political correctness is a form of tyranny because they try to control things that usually will insult people or make them actually think about their own culture that, is kind of obvious to everybody else, but not to them. That's kind of funny. That's what comedy is. It's like the truth that's told as a joke, right? That's why they have a saying that truth is said in jest for comedy, right? That kind of stuff is not tolerated in China, right? In America, it is. It's called free speech, although that's being broken down by political correctness culture and the lawsuit culture. I mean, if it were just political correctness, there would be no problem. But the fact that they back it up with lawsuits, and now they're actually making hate speech laws where you can actually go to prison for saying things. Hate speech laws are antithetical to the Constitution because even the Constitution defends and protects hate speech as free speech. You can say whatever you want as long as it's not leading other people to commit harms or offenses on people, like crimes on people. This is why they kind of made it illegal for you to shout fire in a theater, because it can lead to people getting trampled and people trying to run out and escape the theater, and there aren't enough doors, so it creates a funnel, and everyone gets stuck in that funnel, and then everyone gets trapped in the theater. And if it is on fire, everyone burns down. Everything burns down inside. They all die. So okay, I can understand why they would want to regulate. But when you're making fun of someone's culture, I get made fun of all my life. I've been made fun of both of my cultures, the Filipino culture, the Polish culture. I'm Filipino and Polish, but I'm American. I was raised American. I'm American first. But deep down in my roots, in my DNA, I have the revolutionary blood flowing through my veins of all three. Because the Polish culture was a revolutionary culture in Europe. The communists took over Poland and they devastated Poland. And Poland wasn't having anything of it because they got tired of all the communist garbage and the starvation that came from it. So they expelled the communists. And Christianity or Catholicism rules there. In the Philippines was a great republic. And then it got taken over by Japan. And actually there were multiple times the Philippines has been assaulted. But it's a revolutionary culture, and they fought them and they expelled them, and with America's help they were freed from Japan. And the Philippines is now, unfortunately, they elected Duterte. Duterte was a good politician. I liked some of the things he was talking about when it came to trying to clamp down on corruption, because there was corruption in the Philippines, but it ended up becoming a trade for one type of corruption for another. And Duterte is communist, so he's getting where he's expelling the Christianity. Philippines was also Catholic. And they're starting to expel the Christianity out of the Philippines, which ultimately does not do well for people. How can it do well when you're in a religion that teaches you to love others, including your enemy as yourself? How can that ever benefit a culture to expel that? Is it better to just hate everybody? Is it better to think you love people, but then you're selective? You love some, but you hate those who hate you, and you love those who love you. Christianity teaches you to love everybody, but communists want to expel that. Well, that's no different than communism. Communism is, I love you as long as you love me. That's basically what communism is. As long as you love me, I'll love you. But as soon as you turn against me, I will hate you with everything in my body, every bone in my body, and I will do everything to murder you and kill you, as they do in China, as they do in Venezuela, as they do in any other communist country around the world, or socialist, like hard socialist country around the world. You're seeing it in Venezuela. You're seeing it with Mugabe gone in Zimbabwe. it's going to be interesting to see how Zimbabwe turns out, because usually that's like a dynasty, or it's like a kingdom once a dictator takes over. And Mugabe just totally inflated the Zimbabwe dollar to infinity, and their currency crashed. So now that he's died, it's interesting to see how that country's going to turn out. So I'm keeping tabs on Zimbabwe to see how it'll turn out. But most socialist countries are going in the toilet. You look at Europe. Europe is basically a communist federation in disguise. They're trying to make it look like they're a semi-socialist, freedom-loving group of countries. But the reality of it is, you've got this governing body that has control over all these nations, and they forced all these nations to give up their own money and go under the umbrella currency of the euro. So now, anything that they want to do, they can't do, because they have to seek the governing body's approval first up above. All right. Anyway, so going back, so South Park got banned for free speech. Steve Kerr of the NBA, there was an NBA coach who made a statement about China. I can't remember who it was, but he made a statement about China. China didn't like it, so they're banning the NBA. NBA doesn't like that. NBA is all about money. I love it how the left is always talking about how the Republicans were always about money and they don't care about humans. But now you see all the leftists in the organizations where they get banned from China, and now it's all about the money. It's not about the principle anymore. It never was about the principle. You always like to put Republicans and conservatives under the bus for being about money. But the reality of it is, you guys are even worse about money, to the point where you'll sell your souls to the devil. You'll roll under. You'll pretend to be something you're not, just so you can get that almighty dollar paycheck. And that's what Steve Kerr went up there. They asked him, has anyone asked you about the human rights problems in China? And what does he say? No one asked me about the fact that our government allows AR-15s in the United States and there's mass shootings. How can you ever equate those two? The Chinese government is an authoritarian, tyrannical government that slaughters people. They have people on a facial recognition system where they can cut you off from the economy, and they can find you in your home and kill you. And then the United States has embodied in law a human right to self-defense called the Second Amendment, right? That's part of our law. Why did they put it in law? You have every right to defend yourself against someone who's trying to hurt you. That's what the Second Amendment is about. It's not just guns. It's about any type of weapon. You should be able to have any type of weapon to defend yourself against someone who comes at you with a similar kind, even including our own government. The rights of the people shall not be infringed. It's called a right. It is a human right, because when you tie up someone's hands, that's the first sign you're violating them. Right? When you tie them up, you bind them. That's either imprisonment or you're restricting them from freedom of movement. So the first sign of taking someone's self-defense away from them is a violation of their rights. So the self-defense in and of itself is a right. If you take their right to defend themselves, or you take the tool by which they defend themselves, and you prevent their ways of acquiring accessories or other means to help them maximize their use of that tool, and you restrict them again. Freedom is not about restriction. It's about self-restriction, of course. It's respecting others. And when you don't respect others, you lose your freedom. That's called jail, right? So we have jails. We have prisons. We don't need laws that restrict the entire population. Because as long as the entire population has freedom, you don't need to restrict them as long as they obey it. Once they disobey it, those freedoms are gone. You've taken their rights by putting them in jail because they violated their freedom. They abused their freedom. So this is the whole thing about Steve Kerr comparing our rights to human rights to self-defense, and someone going and abusing that right by slaughtering numbers of people in a mass shooting. That's one person taking a firearm and shooting hundreds of people. Not all the firearm owners. 90% of firearm owners don't abuse their firearms. But you got that one person that decides to use firearms. So now we're violating human rights because of that one person. As opposed to China, everyone in government is violating human rights. You don't ever compare those two. Steve Kerr, you are a sellout. I love the Chicago Bulls when you were on the Bulls. Jordan, Pippen, Kerr, all you guys were my favorites. And you just lost my respect. I spit in your face when you talk like that. I don't care if you lost your family member to a shooting. You know, I've had family members who were shot too, and I never blamed the gun. And I never blamed other gun owners. I always blamed that one psychotic, mentally disturbed individual who decided to misuse their rights. You know, and that is disgusting that you would ever attack my right to self-defense by using such a false comparison and deflecting the fact that you are a sellout for money, like all other Democrats and all other leftists that disgust me. You come out there and you label conservatives and Republicans and people like me, libertarians, as racists because we want to defend our loved ones and our families. You just don't like our arguments, so you label us racist. But you're a sellout. And you're a violator of human rights of the worst kind. Worse than a racist. Because you do it to everybody. It's colorblind. It has nothing to do with race. You're violating everybody's human rights by attacking them. And Democrats are just like that. Look at Joe Biden. He's trying to pretend he's gay now. You were Catholic before, weren't you, Joe? And the sad part about that is, Joe, you know, as a Catholic, if you're going up and you're receiving the body of Christ, it says in scriptures that if you receive the body of Christ unworthily, you are as guilty of judgment as anyone who denies Christ, because you're contributing to his crucifixion. And you're pretending to be Catholic. You're lying about it. You're going and supporting abortion. You're going and supporting disarming people and preventing them from defending themselves. And now you want to go and pose as a gay person, and you want to be Catholic? You want to be be-all, end-all to everybody. You don't even know where you stand. And then you go out and you help your son. You talked about fat cats with the Obama administration, how the rich people are all taking advantage of people. But then you go help your son go to Ukraine and get on the seat of a gas company where he's getting paid millions, and he doesn't know anything about gas. Well, but he should, because you blow a lot of hot air. And Elizabeth Warren claims she's a Cherokee. She's part Indian. She's part Native American Indian. And she's nothing of the sort. And she's also going and dancing in gay pride rallies. I mean, I'm amazed at people on the left that they're still there. This tells me that a lot of them are posing. They're posing as racially oppressed people, as sexually oppressed people, because the true racially oppressed people are waking up to the reality of what the Democratic Party and the leftists stand for. And they're becoming conservative and Republican. They're seeing we're freedom-loving. And we defend people from oppression. We always have, if you study history. Republicans freed the slaves, not the Democrats. Democrats enslaved everybody in history. And they call us Nazis? The Democrats were the Nazis. They founded the KKK. We gave women the rights to vote. You look at Trump. Trump hires a lot of women. The Democrats are the ones who created the Me Too society. And guess who were the Me Too violators? They were Democrats. Look into it. Robert De Niro, the biggest Trump hater now. I respected him when he was an actor. I loved his movies, and now I see how he is, and he's despicable. All the people I loved in the past, I'm finding out how leftist they are. Maybe the money corrupted them. They made all this money as sports stars, as actors, as musicians, and the devil got into them. They sold their soul to the devil. That money got in there, and it corrupted them because they realized they could do whatever they want now. They were poor before, and now they're rich.